Well, good evening. Thank you for tuning in to our virtual meeting tonight to share information about the two levy proposals being presented to voters on the February 8th special election ballot. My name is John Pullum. I'm the superintendent of Puyallup Schools, and joining me tonight will be Laura Marco, assistant superintendent of Business and Support Services, and Mario Casello, assistant superintendent of Operations, as well as Bob Horton, Puyallup Education Association president. This is my second year serving here in the Puyallup School District. I've served in public education since 1986, and I've been privileged to take part and witness so much amazing work over the years in the districts that I've worked in. But these last 2 years have been like no other. Collectively, we have grown and we have suffered together. Puyallup has enjoyed a great reputation in our state. Although COVID has created quite a challenge for us, our community remains strong and the historical support for schools remains strong as well. The community and school system are why many of us desire to live and work in Puyallup. As a member of the community with grandchildren here in our schools, I am as vested as can be in ensuring the district remains strong. Tonight, we partnered together in a virtual sense to provide information about the upcoming levies and address commonly asked questions. Ideally, this would be done in person, scheduling community engagement sessions all throughout the district. I'm sure I speak for the majority when I say that we're looking forward to returning to a more personal level of interaction on a regular basis. Speaking of interaction, I'd like to take a moment to outline how the chat will work this evening. If you have a question, and we hope you do, please click on the chat option on your screen. There you'll see a list of moderators you can submit a private question to. So ideally, we'd like you to send your question to the appropriate moderators titled EP&O, Levy, Capital Projects, and General. And so as you submit those questions, your private question will be answered. And if it's a question that's helpful to everyone, we'll be publishing those for all participants to see. We'll also verbally address some frequently asked questions at the end of the presentation as well. So I hope that's clear on how that's going to work this evening. Before we begin, I'd like to start by acknowledging that we have a lot to be thankful for in the Puyallup School District. Specifically, the dedication of our staff, the partnership of our families, and the amazing students we're supporting as they prepare for their place in the world. For 168 years, a long time this district's been here, our district's been committed to excellence, but we can't do it without your help. So thank you for being here tonight to learn more and understand how you can help us in our efforts.
For 168 years, Puyallup School District has served students, staff, families, and residents in the Puyallup area. As the 7th largest school district in Washington state, our tradition of excellence is what distinguishes us, which is why we are asking voters to consider two levy proposals on the February 8th special election ballot. If passed, these two propositions will provide critical funding for operations and facilities. The 4-year replacement EP&O levy funds essential staff, like classroom teachers, instructional assistants, nurses, and counselors. It also funds essential programs and services, including athletics and activities, music and arts, advanced courses, special education, student transportation, and general maintenance of grounds and facilities. The 6-year capital levy will support safe, secure, and efficient learning environments. The study and survey report, conducted by an OSPI certified consultant, provided a full analysis of buildings needing critical repairs. Funding is needed to address the volume of work to repair, replace, or correct deficiencies. If both levies are approved, the estimated total combined tax rate change for a $500,000 home would be $23 a month. Levies are for learning and support the whole child, both in and out of the classroom. The upcoming election will help us to continue to provide quality and supportive learning experiences and spaces for Puyallup students, setting them up for success now and after high school. If passed, The Replacement Educational Programs and Operations Levy and Capital Levy will do just that.
Now I'd like to introduce PEA President Bob Horton to say a few words.
Thank you, John. Good evening. My name is Bob Horton. I'm presently the president of the Puyallup Education Association. I've been involved in education now for 38 years, the last 27 here in the Puyallup School District. I've raised both my children here. They are both graduates of the Puyallup schools, and they have chosen to come back to the Puyallup area to continue their professional careers. I'm very vested in this school and in this area and its future success. As the president of the Puyallup Education Association, I presently represent more than 1,500 certified educators. So that's classroom teachers, elementary, junior high, and high school librarians, music teachers, and PE teachers, our counselors, nurses, speech and language pathologists, occupational therapists, physical therapists, psychologists, audiologists, behavior specialists, social workers, and instructional coaches here in the Puyallup School District that work tirelessly each and every day to create a welcoming, safe, and engaging teaching and learning environment for all students. Educators strive to build positive relationships with their students that allow them to create those unique learning activities required to meet the needs of our students individually every single day. The EP&O levy will provide the necessary funds to continue to recruit and retain the best teachers for our classrooms, and also maintain our arts and athletic programs that we here in Puyallup are so proud of. While the capital levy will allow the Puyallup School District to continue its emphasis on providing a safe learning environment for all of its students and staff through upgrades to the school security systems and buildings. As educators, we come to school each day excited to partner with our students for their next and prepare them for their next steps in their learning and educational journey, be that moving from kindergarten to first grade, sixth grade into junior high, or our high school students moving on in their educational process, be it a 4-year college, a 2-year college, technical school, or the military, whatever that journey and their path is. So we are asking each of you attending this town hall meeting this evening to support both the EP&O and capital levy. Educators are ready to move mountains daily for their students, and with your support of these levies, you can unite with us to continue to change the lives of our Puyallup School District students daily. And I would now like to pass the program on to Laura Marco.
Thank you, Bob. And hello, everyone. My name is Laura Marco, and as mentioned earlier, I am the Assistant Superintendent of Business and Support Services. I'd just like to take a moment to tell you a little about myself. Puyallup is home for me. I was raised in the area and went to Puyallup schools, attending Woodland, Callis, and graduating from Rogers High School. At Rogers, I was heavily involved in our amazing CTE program, where I first developed my interest in business and finance. And that really helped shape my career choice and eventually led me to become an employee for the school district. I am also the proud parent of a child who just graduated last year from Rogers High School as well. So I'm passionate and invested and very proud of the work we do for our communities and our schools. And now that I've given you some background on myself, I'll switch gears to sharing information about our upcoming levies. This February, we have 2 important levy propositions on the special election ballot. Proposition 1 is an educational programs and operations levy, which would replace our current EP&O levy that expires at the end of 2022. Proposition 2 is a capital levy. And before we go much further, I'm going to share some information to help explain the difference between bonds and levies and the difference between the 2 levies that we have on the ballot. Levies are for learning. They play a vital role in filling the gap between state and federal funding and the actual cost of providing critical services to students. When we think of levies, we typically think of educational programs and operations, or EP&O levies, or even several years ago, they were called M&O levies. But we have also capital levies, which are for improvements to buildings and sites and infrastructure. Levies require a 50% plus one passage rate from the voters, and once approved by the voters, the funds are collected and spent over a period of time, typically 4 to 6 years. While levies are for learning, bonds are for building. Major construction projects like building a new school or remodeling an existing school are typically paid for with bond dollars. Bonds can also pay for major modifications to a building to accommodate safety and security systems or technology infrastructure upgrades. Bonds require a 60% plus one passage rate from the voters, and once approved, the district holds a bond sale and receives the funds upfront to pay for the construction projects. The principal and interest payments on the bonds are paid back over several years, typically 20 to 25 years. Okay, so both propositions that will appear on the ballot for the February 8th election are levy propositions. The Replacement Educational Programs and Operations Levy is focused on helping to fund the day-to-day operations of the school district that aren't funded by the state. And in just a moment, we'll look more specifically at what the EP&O levy pays for. The capital levy is focused on improving and upgrading safety, security, facilities, and infrastructure district-wide, so our students have safe and appropriate spaces to learn, and for our staff to have safe and appropriate spaces to work in each day. Together, these levies will ensure that Puyallup students are provided with quality, supportive learning experiences and spaces. Okay, so what are the items that are EP&O levy funds? Well, more than half is used to pay for salaries and benefits that are not funded by the state. This includes classroom teachers, instructional assistants, nurses, counselors, and other school support positions. It also funds athletics and extracurricular activities, as well as essential programs like music and the arts. These are critical areas that are well documented at supporting the social and emotional development of our students, improving school engagement and culture, developing valuable life and career skills, and strengthening community and civic engagement. The levy also helps fund educational programs like special education, gifted education, and other instructional programs like AVID that helps students succeed and prepare for college. Levy funds also pay for other day-to-day operations like utilities and facilities maintenance, instructional materials and supplies, including textbooks. And last but not least, the levy allows us to pay for staff computers and the one-to-one technology devices for our students. Our Empowering Puyallup initiative that began about 4 years ago was originally intended to provide equal access for all students as a tool for increasing engagement and achievement, and while also preparing them for a technology-driven world. The forethought of this program enabled the district to quickly transition to remote learning throughout the pandemic and reduce barriers for students who otherwise might not have had access to technology during this time. Many surrounding districts actually have a separate technology levy that provides these critical devices for their students and staff. However, Puyallup carves this funding out of our regular EP&O levy, which helps us maintain lower tax rates. As I mentioned on the last slide, more than half of our levy goes to covering staff salaries and benefits that are not funded by the state. And I just like to focus on that a little bit more to help you understand how we're so far apart from what the state funds. We are primarily funded on our student enrollment, and that enrollment generates a number of staff positions that are funded by the state. These positions range from classroom teachers, librarians, counselors, and principals to custodians, technology, maintenance, and clerical staff. Not only does the state not fund all of the positions that it takes to truly operate the district, but for those positions that they do fund, they don't cover the full actual cost. For classified staff, and these are the positions that support the operations of the district, we only receive about 85% of the actual salary and benefit costs of an average classified staff member. For certificated administrators, which includes principals and instructional-based central administrators, we only receive about 71% of the actual costs. And for certificated positions like teachers, counselors, librarians, and nurses, that percentage is only about 87%. So our levy funding really makes a significant impact on the amount of staff we are able to employ, which in turn allows us to offer smaller class sizes and other supports that impact the quality of education and services that we provide. Okay, so this is not a new tax. It replaces our current EP&O levy that our voters have supported for more than 20 years and makes up about 13% of the total revenue in our general fund. This is a 4-year levy for collection in 2023 through 2026. And it's important to know that the EP&O levy rates cannot exceed $2.50 per $1,000 of assessed value and cannot exceed the levy amounts approved by the voters. This table here shows both the levy amounts and the estimated tax rates required to produce these levy amounts for each year of the 4-year levy. The rate is estimated to be about $2.49 in 2023 and $2.46 in years 2024 through 2026. And again, that's the rate per $1,000 of assessed value. Okay, so the replacement EP&O levy represents, as I mentioned, a significant amount of funding for the district. If this levy does not pass, it has a direct impact on the staffing and programs we can offer. We would see fewer staff and larger class sizes, and it would result in a decrease or elimination of opportunities like athletics and extracurricular activities, music and arts, advanced and specialized educational programs, student transportation, and general maintenance of our grounds and facilities. And now I would like to turn this program over to Mario Casello, our Assistant Superintendent of Operations, and he is going to share some more information about Proposition 2, our capital levy.
Thank you, Laura. Good evening. As Laura said, my name is Mario Casello. I have the privilege of serving as Assistant Superintendent of Operations. And similar to Laura, I'm a product of the Puyallup School District. I graduated from Puyallup High School and then went on to college and got my degree in education and came back to the Puyallup School District where I was a teacher at Rogers High School and coach. And then I had the privilege of becoming assistant principal at Rogers High School and then moved on to serve as principal at Callis Junior High School for almost a decade. And then principal at Glacier View for a short stint, about 1 year. And then I came downtown to serve as Chief Operations Officer and most recently Assistant Superintendent of Operations. And again, similar to Laura, I have children that have gone through the Puyallup School District. My oldest daughter graduated from Puyallup High School, and my youngest daughter is an 8th grader at Ballou Junior High. So Puyallup is my home. I love it here. I love serving the staff, students, and the community, and have a great joy of being an employee here in the district. So Proposition 2 is a capital levy, and there really are 2 big pieces here that we'll analyze. But first, we conducted a study and survey back in the spring of 2021, and we worked with OSPI and utilized an accredited outside consultant that came into the district and toured all of our facilities. They spent several months going to every one of our facilities, schools and support sites alike. They checked every single aspect of those buildings, interior and exterior, and they gave a score to those buildings. It's called a building condition assessment score. Then we were able to collect all this data in a spreadsheet that really breaks down all those deficiencies that the consultants found and what those challenges and really issues are that are in those buildings. And then it looks at observed deficiencies, which is really 0 to 5 years, those things that we really need to address immediately. And then it also broke it down and looked at predicted deficiencies and issues that we need to address within the next 6 to 20 years. And so for this 2022 capital levy, we'd be focusing on those observed efficiencies between 0 and 5 years. Then we really took those projects and we broke them down into two different areas: program upgrades and life cycle upgrades. So this first one is the program updates, what you see here. So we broke down and looked at safety and security. Really, the upgrades for fire protection infrastructure is really important in all of our facilities. Enhancing security intrusion systems, fencing and security gates are really important. We look to replace or upgrade security cameras. Every one of our facilities has a number of security cameras on the building, interior, exterior, and so we need to make appropriate replacements and upgrades to those. We look to address traffic flow issues at identified schools. Again, if you were to drive around the district in the mornings during drop-off or in the afternoons for pickup, we have a number of traffic challenges at some of our schools, and we have some that are identified that we would specifically really address with these levy dollars. We would look at field improvements at our elementary level, our playgrounds. We'd like to look to make some improvements to the climbing structures, and then install rubber tiles on every one of those surfaces below those climbing structures. Right now we have wood chips and in some cases pea gravel. So we look to remove those items and put down a very safe, soft rubber tile surface. We look to pave walking paths around all the elementary walking tracks around the fields. And then at the junior high level, we look to install all-weather tracks. Again, being in Western Washington, we experience a lot of rain, as we all know. And so there's a great deal of time where our junior highs are not able to utilize their tracks either for health fitness classes or for athletics. So we would look to install an all-weather track there that would be more efficient and be able to be utilized by staff, students, and the community throughout the year. And then finally, at the elementary level, we look to do some classroom audio visual system upgrades to make sure that all the elementary classrooms have the same systems there. And then the next slide, please. Then we look at our building conditions. And the building condition is kind of that second area. And so technology network improvements. We look to make improvements to our intercom systems, phones, and data voice cables. Some of those things obviously behind the scenes or behind walls that people don't always see, but it's so important for us to make sure that we make appropriate upgrades to. We look to improve our heating and cooling systems in all of our facilities. So boilers, heat pumps, cooling towers, our building control systems. That allows our HVAC team to be able to address our HVAC systems in the building without having to physically get in their car and drive to those sites, which takes a lot of time and effort. They'd be able to get into a software system and be able to help address some of those heating and cooling issues right at their computer at their desk. So again, a way to be more efficient and get the buildings at a right temperature for staff and students. We look to replace critically deficient roofs, floors, and lighting throughout the district. Door hardware upgrades district-wide is very important, making sure that all those particular door hardwares are upgraded and working efficiently. We look to consolidate our bus transportation facility and replace our maintenance facility. Again, working with that outside consultant on that study and survey, every building being given a building condition assessment score. The lowest scoring building in the entire district is our maintenance building. It has not been upgraded or had any improvements for up to 30, 40 years. So we would look to replace that building so that it is a better work location for our maintenance team so that they can serve the district in a more efficient way. And then we'd also look to consolidate our transportation facility at that point in time. The Puyallup School District has two different sites for our transportation right now, one on South Hill and one in the Valley. We have 175 buses in our fleet. So we would look to consolidate and get the majority of our buses on one site and allow us to be more efficient with fueling, with our mechanics, being able to work on those buses, and every aspect of really serving our transportation would be much more efficient and effective if we can consolidate and have it on one site. So we would look to do that work. Portable improvements. Unfortunately, we have a lot of portables in the district, but we want to make sure that those are up to standard and in good condition for our staff and students. So replacing any walking ramps that are not safe or that need to be replaced due to their end of their life cycle. We'd make improvements for roofs, heating, and windows on those portables as well. And then any interior, exterior paint would also be addressed. Our support site improvements for various end of the life equipment. Again, we talk about all these things that need to be done at the schools. We also have to be very cognizant and address those at our support sites. So any upgrades or improvements to roofs, heating and cooling, flooring and lighting at our support sites would also be addressed through these levy dollars. And then building envelope, which is the outside of a building, making sure that we apply any upgrades or improvements to exterior paint, cleaning and sealing of our exteriors. We have several schools that are their exteriors bricks, so we make sure we clean those and seal those appropriately. And then as well as any upgrades or replacement to any windows. So that would be our building condition one there. And then these next three slides really break down all the different schools in the district and the dollar amount that would be associated with the amount of work that we could do at those schools. And that's something that's very important with this levy is every one of our sites is going to get some type of upgrades or improvements. Based on those first two slides that I shared, all those different projects and scope of work there, these schools would see some kind of work in there. So if you look at Region 1, these are all the schools in Region 1, and there's the dollar amount right now that's kind of been allocated for that school based on those the work on those first two slides. So Edgerton, $2.4 million, Hunt, $3.2 million. Pope Elementary School is a 2015 bond project, so there's no work needed there. Ridgecrest, $2.5 million. Sunrise is also a 2015 bond project, no work needed there. Wildwood would be 1.3 million. Ferrucci Junior High is a portion of the 2015 bond project. It was a state match project, so we were able to do an addition and a lot of upgrades and improvements there, but we still have $1.6 million allocated to Ferrucci for some improvements. Glacier View would receive $2 million, and then Emerald Ridge High School about 3.9 million. And then the next slide shows us Region 2. Burlett Elementary, 3.4 million. Carson, 3 million. Desi Evans and Fir Grove were obviously 2015 bond projects, therefore they wouldn't have any work needed. Woodland Elementary School, 4.9. Zeiger Elementary, 3.1. Ballou and Stahl were also both state match projects associated with the 2015 bond package, and also got some additions and improvements. But they too still need some work that we were not able to address with that state match dollars. So Ballou had received 6.9 million, Stahl $4.1 million worth of work. And then Rogers High School, 6.2 million, and then Walker High School, about $500,000. And then finally, Region 3, Fruitland Elementary School would be 4.8 million, Karshner Elementary School, 2 million, Maplewood, 6.3 million, Meeker Elementary, 2 million, Mountain View about 3.2 million. Northwood was one of our 2015 bond projects, so no need there. Shaw Road, 1.3, Spinning, 2.7, Stewart Elementary School, 3.7, Waller Road, 3.3 million, Aylen Junior High, 2.9 million, Edgemont Junior High, 2.4 million, Callis, 2.3 million, and then Puyallup High School, about $3.4 million. So as you can see, every one of our schools is really going to see a lot of improvements and upgrades that will greatly benefit the staff, students, and the community. And then this slide here really shows kind of the breakdown of some of our support sites, but then also just district-wide. So some of those things that I covered on those first two slides, all those different improvements that the schools are going to see, we got into $15.1 million there. And that's in addition to like crosswalk flashing beacons. Again, making sure that safety and security is of the utmost importance. So as our kids that walk to school, there's a lot of our schools where we need some crosswalk flashing beacons, so we would install those. The intrusion alarm upgrades is really important. If anybody were to break into any of our sites, the locking hardware, as I addressed earlier, those access controls are really important for our HVAC team. And then reader board replacements. So we have electronic reader boards at all of our sites, and some of those again are at their end of their life cycle, so we would look to replace those ones. And then Spark Stadium would receive about $2.4 million. Part of that would be the replacement cost for the turf, which we look to replace about every 8 to 10 years to make sure that that is safe for participants utilizing the field. That transportation / maintenance consolidation and upgrade is about $15 million. And then other support sites receiving some of that work would total about $2.9 million. So the next slide. So without this funding, what does that look like? Again, the levy is really important to us. The pieces that Laura talked about, and then obviously Proposition 2, which I just spoke to. We need these things. We need these improvements for the facilities, for staff, students, and again, the community. So if they were not to pass, yeah, there's definitely challenges there for us as all these deficiencies that we need to address based on that study and survey. So the importance of this is highly at a high level, and we can't stress that enough. So the hope is that our community sees that and the importance for this levy. And then the final slide before I turn it back to Laura is thinking about a future bond package. So in May 2021, our board commissioned the Citizen Facility Advisory Committee, and that committee has been working since June. We meet every 2 months, and we are really analyzing data from the study and survey, and we are looking at facility and program deficiencies for the district, taking into consideration the growth and the aging of our facilities, and really developing a plan, a recommendation that we can bring to the board and Dr. Palm in March as to what a future bond package could look like for the district. So we will be ready to present that in March. Now I'm going to turn it back over to Laura, and she's going to talk a little bit about the tax rates and finances associated with this capital levy.
Thanks, Mario. So Mario just went over all of the information for our Proposition 2 capital levy, and that capital levy is for $125 million in total funding, which would be collected over 6 years, starting in 2023 through 2028, with collections at $20.8 million for each year. And these next to that are the estimated rates per $1,000 of assessed value that homeowners would pay. And with the passage of both the EPO and the capital levy, these would be our total tax rates. In 2021, our total rate was $4.26 per $1,000 of assessed value. In 2022, which is the election year, we have a decrease of 26 cents because of a step down in our both our current bond debt and our current operating levy rates. In 2023, which would be the first year of collection for the EP&O replacement and the capital levy, the rate would increase to $4.56. And in a moment, I'll share with you what that change means for the average homeowner. But first, let's look at how our tax rates compare with our neighboring districts. As we saw in the previous slide, the total tax rate in 2021 was $4.26. At that rate, there is only one neighboring district that has a lower total tax rate. If we were to pass both the EP&O levy replacement and the capital levy, the new rate of $4.56 would only bump us up one spot. 4 of our neighboring districts would still have higher tax rates than Puyallup, and 3 of those are significantly higher. So what we are proposing here is still very conservative when we consider our neighboring school districts. Okay, so what does this mean for the average homeowner? Right now, the median home value in Puyallup and Pierce County is currently $500,000. So homeowners in 2021 paid about $2,130 for the whole year. In 2022, which is the election year, we have that decrease in the rate to $4, which means the average homeowner will pay around $2,000. With the passage of both levies, the total tax amount for the average homeowner starting in 2023 would be about $2,280, which is an increase of about $280, which works out to be about $23 per month more that they would pay than in 2022. So in preparation for the election, please register to vote if you haven't already, and then remember to vote by 8 p.m. on February 8th. We have lots of information to help you learn more about this election. Please check your school newsletters or refer to our website. Thank you for coming this evening and watching the town hall presentation. We have one more town hall tomorrow, Thursday, at 6 p.m. And families will also be receiving an informational flyer in the mail within the next week. And then there's also Levy pamphlets available at each of our school buildings and support sites. You can also contact our communications department with any questions and maybe questions that you think of after the Levy town hall that we weren't able to answer tonight. And their contact information is here on the next slide. Actually, this slide, I just can't see everything. So I think at this point, we can take some questions that came in throughout the presentation. Mario, do you have one you want to share?
Let's see here. I'm getting to the chat. So there is one that talks about, will the levy help transportation issue that we are both facing? It will definitely, Prop 1 will help with funding staffing, and Prop 2 will help improve the operational efficiencies by consolidating those transportation facilities and address traffic flows at some of those schools. So we definitely see that there would be a great benefit to helping address our transportation challenges. Let's see. There was one, when mentioning improving security, does that relate to reducing school shootings at all? And so, you know, again, one of the important components to Proposition 2 is enhancing our security intrusion alarm systems. So the installation of those alert beacons in those large spaces. So in our gyms, our commons, our music spaces, anytime there's a lockdown that is activated or instigated through an announcement over the intercoms. And obviously in those large spaces, when you got a lot of kids in there, it's hard to hear. So by us installing a visual alert in those large spaces, it's going to be a very important element to alerting anybody in those spaces that we are going into a lockdown. Therefore, staff and students can follow those procedures. So for sure, that's going to be a huge benefit to those emergency safety and security protocols.
I have a question here, Mario, too, if you need to take a
go ahead.
Seconds to look. We have a question about whether the levy helps fund positions like mental health assistance. And actually, yes, that is a big part of what the levy funds, just in several positions that the state does not fully fund. A great example is currently we employ 16 registered nurses, and we also have multiple LPNs and health assistants throughout the district. We actually are only funded for about 3 nurses throughout the district. So you can see in a lot of the employee categories, there's a big disparity in between what the state funds and then what we actually have that we actually employ. And the EP&O levy funds all of that extra that the state does not fund.
Another one here was, what capital facility projects will actually occur at the elementary schools? So every one of our elementary schools, we have 22, with the exception of those 2015 bond elementary schools, which is the 5 major ones. So take away those 5 major ones, all the other elementary schools are going to receive some level of work that I described in those first 2 slides. And you saw the dollar amount associated with each school. So you can tell there's a great deal of work that every one of our elementary schools will receive, as well as junior highs and high schools.
One question, I don't see any other questions related to the EP&O levy, but one question we have received at the other town halls, or that we get quite often, is do families who live in multifamily complexes or apartments pay property taxes? And yes, the property owners pay the property taxes, and then this is passed down to the renters in the amount that they are charged for rent. So every property does, in some form or fashion, pay the property taxes.
Laura, this is John. I think it might be good to review the senior citizen and persons with disability potential waiver for the tax, and where to get that information. If you have it.
Absolutely. We, let's see, I actually have I pulled that up here so I could be prepared for that. So we do have Pierce County that you can contact either by the website, if you go to the Pierce County Elections website, or I'll say their number here if you have a pen available. Their number, the tax exemptions office, is 253-798-2169, and they do offer either exemptions or deferrals or some sort of tax relief for people who qualify. That might be either senior citizens or people with disabilities or other qualifying circumstances. So that would need to be done through the Pierce County Elections Office.
And then one last one here, Laura. It says a lot of this sounds very aesthetic. Could this money be better used possibly with food or mental health assistance?
Yeah, that's the one I just answered.
Oh, that was that one. Okay, thanks, Laura. I think we hit them all then in our area.
I think so.
Okay.
Maybe I could just add one more. I often get the question, I don't have any kids in the district, so why would I vote in this election? And, you know, as a community, it's important to support our schools, and great schools increase your property values. They decrease crime. They encourage families and other residents to be engaged in the community. As I drive throughout the district, I see real estate signs that advertise that a house for sale is a Puyallup School District, or within the Puyallup School District community, because it's a selling point. We have a long history of tradition and excellence. And, you know, great schools build better communities, and what better investment is there out there? And did you see anything else pop up, Mario?
Nope, that was the last one I saw.
Okay. Then we can go ahead and finish the session now. Dr. Palm, did you have anything you'd like to add?
Yes. First, thank you, Laura and Mario and Bob. Appreciate you being here and just sharing all that information. I know you spent a lot of time in the trenches doing the work, and appreciate the evening time you spent here with some of the community who could join us. And I just guess I would end with many years ago, I went to college in Tacoma, and a product of UPS there. And one of the things going through the education program that many of the future teachers were considering is what districts they really wanted to work in. And even back then, when we're talking mid 80s, there were just a couple of districts at the top of the list, and Puyallup was definitely there. And certainly a place where the schools have been traditionally supported, and very thought of to have excellent programs. And so these two issues that are put before the voters in February are really meant to continue to be able to provide the kind of quality school experiences that are expected here in Puyallup. And I would say that coming out of the pandemic, things certainly have been challenging, but there's light at the end of the tunnel. We certainly can see things certainly being different in the future as we move out of this difficult time, and then I won't say back to normal, but back to something that is completely different than what we've been experiencing the last year and a half or more. So with that, I think that if there's any more questions that come up, they'll be responded to. We will be publishing not only our FAQs from these webinars that we're holding, but we also record them and make them available for folks online. And if you have any friends or family that weren't able to participate in the first 3 sessions, we will be offering this again tomorrow at 6 p.m. So with that, we're going to go ahead and end the session now. And again, if you've asked a question in the chat that's not been answered, please direct your question to the communications email and a staff member will follow up with you. Thank you and have a great evening.